Hi guys, I'm Anissa and I'm back with another video. Today it's time for my March wrap-up, all of the books that I read in March. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to be talking a little bit about the statistics for my reading in March, and it is as follows. First up, I read a total of 10 books in March. I read a total of 3,759 pages, and that gives an average page count of 376 pages. In terms of the length of the books, 7 of them were regular novels and 2 of them were novellas, and then I have 1 graphic novel. And in terms of page count, there's a bit of a variety in how big the books were. I have 3 books that were between 100 and 199 pages. I have 2 books that was between 200 and 299 pages. And I have 1 book that was between 300 and 399 pages. And I had also 1 book between 400 and 499 pages. Then I had 2 books between 500 and 599 pages. And finally I had 1 book that surpassed 1,000 pages. In terms of genres, I read 3 science fiction novels, 3 fantasy books, 1 non-fiction book, which is a rare occurrence in my reading, 1 horror book and 1 magical realism book. In terms of formatting, I read 1 graphic novel, 1 trade paperback, 2 ebooks and 6 audiobooks. So I'm back in my audio jam again. No, I missed that a lot in February. I would like to for once also share with you where they come from, because this month I participated in the translate-a-thon and that definitely changed a little bit about where my authors were from. But I also overall read books from 7 different countries, or authors from 7 different countries. First up, I had 4 books that were from a US author, 1 book that was from a UK author, then I had 1 book that was from an Australian author, 1 book from a Spanish author, 1 book from a Japanese author, 1 book from a Swedish author, and finally 1 book from a Finnish author. In terms of rating, this was a pretty decent month. I only read 2 3-star books and 7 4-star books, and then I read 1 book that was rated 5 stars. So yeah, those were the statistics. Now I'm gonna get into the books. I'll be starting with my lowest rated and go up to my highest rated of the month. The first book that I'm going to talk about today is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is the first book in a YA series that I think called Strange the Dreamer, or maybe I forgot what it's called. This is a BookTube SFF nominee in the YA category, and I listened to this one in audio. So I went into Strange the Dreamer with a bit of... I had only read 1 book by Laini Taylor before and I wasn't super impressed with it, but I was really excited to try something new. Maybe she's changed a little bit in her writing style. Everyone seems to really enjoy her writing and I wanted to give her another go, so I went in with an open mind. And yeah, sadly I just didn't really connect with any of the characters. I felt like the plot was really slow and nothing was really happening. And since I didn't really connect with any of the characters, I had a little hard time actually enjoying the book. I also felt like the romance in the story was a little too insta-lovey. I feel like they more or less just saw each other and then suddenly they were both in love or something like that, and that's just pretty unrealistic. I mean, I get that you can be having a crush on somebody, be infatuated in a way, but you don't fall in love at first sight. That just doesn't happen. But I'm not sure if I will be continuing with the books in the future. I mean, there was a bit of an intense ending that I thought was interesting, but I don't feel like I should read a book if it takes this long to actually get my interest at all. And yeah, I don't think I really connect with Laini Taylor's writing style. It's a little too flowery for me. I don't get connected to the story. I feel a little like... I mean, as I said, I've also read 1 book by her before and I felt the same way with the characters and I felt myself a little bit of distant from what was going on in the story, and I think that's why I couldn't completely get by the story as a whole. So I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. Then I also read The 5 Daughters of the Moon by Lena Likitalo. This is the first book in the Waning Moon duology. This is a book, I don't know if it's YA or adult. I mean, the people we are following are of the young adult age range, but I'm unsure if the writing is more suitable like to the adult genre. But this follows these 5 girls. They are of the moon, if you will, and this is a sort of retelling of the last Romanovs, just with only female children, daughters, instead of a mix of both men and women. And so you know this is going to be a pretty sad story, because it's just gonna end horribly bad, like the real events did. But this follows these 5 girls as they're in the beginning of the Russian Revolution. They are sent to from where they've been staying at this summer palace, winter palace. I forgot what it was, and then on a train to a secluded place somewhere far away where they can be in secrecy. And yeah, the way that this book is structured is that it's told from all of the girls' perspectives. So 5 different girls tells the story, and you can see because of their age range, one of them is only, I don't know, I don't think she's even 10 yet, but she's very frail and her mind is a little bit different than the others. And then we have the oldest one, Celestia, who is an empress, and she was really interesting to see from as well. And I like that we got those different perspectives and how they were very distinctive when they were talking from their point of view. And I think the first half of the book, I was really immersed in the story. I just couldn't put it down. But there was something by the passage when they put on the train to go to this secret place, hiding place. It just, the pacing changed a little bit. There's some bit of, it took a while to get anywhere with the book. And so the pacing slowed down a little bit, but I still really enjoyed some parts of it. And I definitely like that she didn't sugarcoat things. And yeah, but how the book ended, I definitely want to know what is going to happen in the final book. And I think I've seen a couple of reviews of it. They seem to like it better, but they also say that it's a lot darker, which makes sense if it's gonna, we know it's gonna end with them all being dead. So it's not gonna be a really fun book to read, but I do want to finish this duology. And yeah, something with the writing could have been done a little bit better, but I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars, weighing on a 3.5 out of 5 stars for this one. But it was a bit of a letdown because I went into this with really, really high expectations and they weren't completely met. Then I read All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries, and this is an AI story told from Murderbot. Murderbot is sort of sees herself as this mass murderbot, but she hasn't actually killed anyone. She's a pretty terrible murderbot when it comes down to it, because she hasn't killed anyone in years and years and years. What's going on is that you see Murderbot, she's part of this, she's a sec unit at this group of people, and they find that something happens in a camp closer to them, and so they want to send out some people to investigate that. And I don't want to get into a lot about the book because it's a very short story and it's only about 145 pages or something of that. And but it's a whole lot of fun from the beginning to the end. I was really immersed in the story, and I cannot wait to get the sequels to this story. Murderbot was such an interesting character to see things from. She had some of the ways that she was thinking, it was just like kind of like I'm myself is thinking sometimes, and I was like, but she's a robot. I mean, sometimes that's just a little funny that I can relate to a robot in that way, but definitely I could in some instances in this one, and it was pretty funny. And yeah, I'm super excited for the sequel to come out really soon, actually. Yeah, but I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. A really great start to a series that I think I'm going to be really, really enjoying. And there was so much humor in it as well that I just think was really funny, and some pretty interesting quotes in there as well. The next book I read was Fruits Basket Volume 2 by Natsuki Takaya. I'm not going to go into very much about my thoughts about this book because it was part of my translate-a-thon, read-a-thon, and I will be linking that in the card symbol up here, so you can go and check it out for more thoughts about this book, because otherwise this is going to be really long. But I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to get on with the stories, and I have volume 3 at the ready, so I'll probably be picking this one up very soon, if not over the weekend. So yeah. Then I also listened to Ting min søn skal vide om verden by Fredrik Backman. This is a book that hasn't been translated into English. It is obviously from the Swedish author Fredrik Backman, also a book that I read for the translate-a-thon, and it is a book that follows, it's a non-fiction book where Fredrik Backman is sort of telling people about him being a dad. Like he's telling it to his son. All of the things that he's experiencing as a dad, as a father, as a man, a husband, all of those everyday things, what happens when you suddenly have a baby in your life as well. And it was quite a fun little book to listen to, and it was really, really short as well, like only about 176 pages, but it was funny to get Fredrik Backman's sort of spin on parenthood and stuff, and that was definitely interesting. I hope that it will be translated to English someday, but I don't know if it will, so I can't really say. But if you're a Swede, you haven't read it, or are from Denmark, or any of the other Scandinavian countries, I presume they've been translated to, then definitely try this out. It was a really fun, quick listen. But yeah, this was also a 4 out of 5 stars for me. The last and final thing that I also finished for the translate-a-thon was The Prince of Mist. The Danish edition that I was listening to is called Tones Fyrste, which is basically more or less the same title. And this was translated from a Spanish author, from Spanish into English, I presume. And this is a really interesting book that is very creepy, and it features a scary clown, which scares me, obviously. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought that the narration was pretty decent, and the book was definitely really creepy, and I'm definitely going to be checking out more by Carlos Ruiz Zafón in the future. And I also gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I also finished Born by Jeff Vandermeer. This is part of my BookTube SFF reading, and this is nominated in the science fiction category. Born is this book, it follows this girl called Rachel. Rachel is living in this sort of far futuristic sort of dystopian place, but still not really, because there are giant Godzilla-like bears that flies and stuff. It follows Rachel, and she one day comes across this thing, that looks a bit like a plant. She takes it home with her, and things start to develop a little bit from there. She noticed that it eats and eats stuff. It doesn't really, it just appears. Nothing comes out of Born again ever. I'm not gonna say much more about the plot, because I want people to go into this sort of finding out on their own. But I just really wanted to know more about Born all the time. There was like and the way that Rachel and Born bonded as a friendship together, that was really also quite cute. And it definitely got me emotionally invested in some parts of it, because of things that happened later on in the book. And the narration style of the audio was really done really well. But the writing style is pretty weird and strange. Yet I felt really connected to the characters because of the way that Jeff Vandermeer was writing this. So I might dip into some of his other works in the future, but we'll see about that. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. It was really an interesting read. The next one I'm gonna talk about today is Jane Eyre. And as I've said before, Jane Eyre was divided into 2 sections in Denmark, so two evenly split. But I have only counted this read as one book, because it would be a little weird if it wasn't like that. I ended up listening to the majority of this in audio, and sort of dipping into this every now and then. I think I read the first 100 or so pages in the first, and then I listened to the rest of it because I found out that it was working a little better for me actually listening to it. But I kept dipping into this one to see where I was in this and seeing sort of the differences between the translations, because there were definitely some changes in this one compared to the one that I was listening to, and that was really funny to see. I'm not going to get into the subject of Jane Eyre because it's been read by so many people. It's a classic. Everybody almost knows what this is about, but I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed it because I really enjoyed Jane as a character. I thought she was a really, really great main protagonist, and she just had a way of, even if sometimes bad things were thrown at her, the way that she dealt with them, I just really enjoyed reading that from her perspective. I thought the romance was pretty great as well. I thought it was always pretty great, and I think that the way that the gothic sort of element, ghostly elements, were also a really, really great twist into this story, and it definitely made it a little bit more eerie and stuff. But I understand why this is a classic, why so many people enjoy it. I think it's my favorite classic so far that I've read, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Stand by Stephen King. I'm not going to be talking a whole lot about the plot of this today because I'm going to be doing a Stephen King batch wrap-up thing with the first 5 books that I read, and sort of talk a little bit more in depth about all of the books that I read for that, and do a top 5 and stuff of the books that I read so far. And that's a plan that I'm going to do onwards as well, and it's going to be up in not during next week but the next week again, during VEDA, so I'm going to save a lot of the talk for that. But this is a dystopian novel set in after a really big, huge pandemic has hit, and it has killed off 99% of the world population, so not a lot of people are left, and it's a sort of a fight between good and evil, and sort of that thing, and in true Stephen King style, and it has a lot of different viewpoints and protagonists and stuff. The only thing that I have to say is that I found it a little too wordy. I didn't really care for the narration style of the audio, but I still enjoyed the book as a whole, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The final book that I'm going to talk about today is my favorite book of the month, which is a middle grade book, and that is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in the Nevermore series. It follows this girl called Jessica, who is a bit of an unfortunate person. She's been brought up thinking that on her 11th birthday at midnight she's going to die, and that everything, there's a curse on her, so that everything that happens in the life around her, she's blamed for it. It's her fault that the weather is bad. It's her fault that someone else breaks a leg because they fall down the stairs. Everything is her fault, whatever, it's just her fault. But then one day, a couple of days before her 11th birthday, someone shows up at her door and says that she is going to be part of Nevermore. And on her 11th birthday, she's swept away into this other land and secret society thing, and she has to go through some trials in order to be accepted in this community. So this is all about Jessica getting through these trials, getting to know Nevermore and all of that, and it was such an amazing experience. I listened to this in audio, and it was a Danish translation, and the narrator was really, really good at keeping the humor and all of that, and I just really love being in this world. It had a giant talking cat that I am just really enjoy that character. And I really enjoyed Jessica and her friend, I forgot his name right now, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in the sequel, which will come out this year. And yeah, I end up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. It was my favorite book of the month, as I said, and I really highly recommend it to anyone who enjoys these sort of stories. I've seen a lot of people comparing it to Harry Potter, and I sort of see this similarities, because it's like this girl, she finds a secret world and is brought into that, and it's a magical world and all of that. But I feel like that's where the similarity stops. I think it's its own thing completely, but I definitely understand if a lot of people who loved Harry Potter will also fall in love with this story. Yeah, these were all of the things that I read in March. Let me know in the comment down below what books you've read. Have you read any of the books that I've read this month? What did you think of them? And yeah, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye!